Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World. My name is Anna Kalczynska and here's everything you should know about the alleged Hungarian espionage in the European Union. Hungary stands accused of sending spies to the EU institutions. According to several media outlets, Budapest deployed intelligence officers disguised as diplomats to infiltrate the core EU institutions in Brussels. The European Commission said it was taking the findings very seriously and announced a task force to examine the claims. Joining me to discuss this matter is Daniel Hegedüs, a regional director for Central Europe and German Marshall Fund. Good morning, sir. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
The pleasure is ours. So what's even more disturbing, the investigation suggests that this alleged espionage activity may have been ongoing for nearly a decade. So we know the who and we know the when. Do we know why?
Yes, I think it's not necessarily surprising what we see here, especially against development that also took place in the past couple of years, that, for example, the Hungarian government used active measures to influence the 2023 autumn elections in both Poland and Slovakia, that they actually created media structures to influence domestic politics in Slovenia, North Macedonia before, so that intelligence services are used also to gather crucial information in European institutions, with which European institutions actually the Hungarian government is in now a 15 years old legal and political conflict due to strategic corruption in the country, the destruction of the rule of law and anti-democratic development. I think this is not really surprising. It is also not something unique that EU member states actually use their nationals to gather information from EU institutions. What is really unique in this case is, I think, twofold. First, that these allegations and details of Hungarian intelligence activities are surfacing and they will be officially investigated. And the second, that at least based on the information disseminated through the media reporting, how aggressively, but also in what an amateurish way, the Hungarian Foreign Intelligence Service operated between 2015 and 2017 in Brussels, that ultimately in 2017 led to the deconspiration of the Hungarian human intelligence network in the EU institutions.
All right, so what kind of information exactly were extracted, and how strategic to the functioning of the EU, you think?
I can only rely on the publicly available sources, what you also know, but based on that, on the one hand, the Hungarian intelligence services were interested in practically everything, including also gossips on the floor and potentially personal information about certain EU officials that can be used actually in intelligence work. But of course, mainly they could have been interested in what moves the European Commission is preparing actually to address the rule of law backsliding, corruption, and similar developments in Hungary. What legal argumentation, for example, the Commission will use in the infringement procedures. And obviously, if the Hungarian government had access to those information in advance, this could benefit their position actually in the legal proceedings or even in the litigation before the Court of Justice in a later stage.
And do you think this data could be passed on to a third country, potentially Russia?
This is a very sensitive topic, and I would provide on the one hand and on the other hand answer. In this very specific case, we know the details of. I think the espionage was really directed to gather information which could strengthen the Hungarian government position vis-à-vis the European Commission. I don't think that these are pieces of information that are particularly interesting or valuable to Russia. Notwithstanding this, we know, unfortunately, that Hungary and Budapest became a safe haven for Russian and Chinese espionage over the past 15 years, which means that these malign actors can have access to important NATO or EU-related information, for example, through the fact that the digital network of the Hungarian Ministry of Foreign Affairs was hacked by Russia for years, and actually the Hungarian Ministry of Foreign Affairs haven't addressed this issue in appropriate ways. So this means that, yes, on the one hand, these actors, and particularly Russia, can have access to certain sensitive Hungarian and even intelligence information. But on the other hand, I don't think that in this particular case, Russia could have any strong interest.
I am asking this because back June 2024, NATO allies restricted Hungary's access to intelligence, fearing it would be leaked to Moscow. And let me quote one of the prominent officials of NATO who said that the problem is that the consequences are felt by everyone as members share less sensitive intelligence through central NATO channels, knowing that Hungary is also among the recipients. So I understand that NATO operates less smoothly, being strained by mistrust to one of the member states. How can NATO, for that matter, tolerate such a situation, or a European Union at present?
I think this is, again, a very complex question, because it's a matter of fact that the European Union has been tolerating actually the transgressions of the Hungarian government now for more than 15 years. But it's a political question, and I think these can be addressed to the heads of states and governments who, for example, in the European Council, repeatedly seek compromise with Prime Minister Orban instead of trying to address the situation, for example, through the suspension of the voting rights of the Hungarian government in the Council. It's a matter of fact that the current regime in Hungary poses a security threat to the alliance systems in which the country participates, particularly NATO and Russia. But as you might see, they are addressing this challenge at lower technical levels, for example, through limiting intelligence sharing with the Hungarian government, due to the reasons what I also mentioned, that Hungary is not using counterintelligence measures against Chinese and Russian operatives in the country with that rigor, how, for example, these espionage activities would be addressed in other EU and NATO member states.
All right, let me ask you directly. Are there any contingency plans for a member state going rogue?
There were contingency plans in the EU law for the eventuality that a member state is going rogue. That's called Article 7 procedure, which would allow actually the suspension of the voting rights of that government, and also the introduction of further sanction measures. However, we know that Article 7 is a dysfunctional legal regulation. We also know why, because it was planned for the eventuality that the European Union has only one rogue member state. And the political reality was that between 2015 and 2023, there were two rogue member states in the European Union, which unfortunately also included the dead government of Poland. And the Polish Law and Justice government and the government of Fidesz in Hungary mutually defended each other from the effective use of the Article 7 procedure. And we also see now that due to the political alliance between Prime Minister Robert Fico in Slovakia and the current Hungarian government, this mutual defense exists. So politically, it's very difficult, if almost not impossible, to use the existing legal tools to address the existence of these rogue member states.
Right. As a former student of College of Europe and History of Integration, I must admit that I don't remember any such situation where one of the member states investigates and spies on the whole institution. So my question is, if the outcome of this investigation confirms the initial findings, what can be the consequences for Budapest? What instruments are in the European Commission's disposal in such a case?
I think it's particularly interesting how it might actually impact the position of Hungarian Commissioner Olivier Várhelyi, particularly against the background that he was the head of the Hungarian permanent representation to the European Union in those times between 2015 and 2017 when these uncovered intelligence activities took place. The spokesperson of the European Commission stated that there are no charges, that actually Commissioner Várhelyi was in breach with his obligation as a commissioner, but obviously it's a very serious breach of trust. And this trust was already not too strong, to put it mildly, both in the European Commission, between Ursula von der Leyen and the Hungarian Commissioner, and particularly between the European Commission and Hungary. However, I would be cautious here with premature conclusions, because actually starting an investigation and putting together a special task force could serve two goals. One is really trying to revealing what's happened and then also publishing the results of those investigations, or particularly just try to kill actually the issue, stating that investigations are ongoing, but if they won't reveal any particular details, then obviously this public attention would slowly die. And I think we must wait, and we will see actually what's the real intention of the European Commission with this investigation and the task force.
Just as you said in the beginning, and the timing of this, the surfacing of those information is also relevant. Thank you so much, Daniel Hegedüs, for joining us this morning. Thank you for your insights, sir, and have a good day.
It was my pleasure.
And thank you so much for staying with us here on World Talks TVP World. Please stay tuned and see you soon.